Good evening and welcome to The Hot Seat, the show where you really get to know the newsmakers. I'm Nidhi Razdan and my first guest tonight is someone who has in a sense been in a hot seat of his own for the last 4 years, ever since he was elected General Secretary of the CPM. And now he's busy trying to put together a non-Congress, non-BJP formation as the country heads into general elections. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Prakash Karat.
Right.
Mr. Karat, let me begin by asking you about the third front or the third alternative, as you called it. Jyoti Basu said recently that while he believes it will be very difficult for the third front to form a government, if it is in a position to do so, the CPM should join that government. So do you see the CPM joining that government?
Well, I think what he meant was that we are making efforts to see that the third front, as it is called, becomes a viable alternative in the coming elections. And if we succeed, and the question of forming a government happens, and depending on the circumstances, our party will have to decide on whether we should participate in the government. And we have already taken a decision that after every election, we have to see the situation and then take an appropriate decision. So we will follow the same procedure this time.
Why is there a reluctance, though, to join a government at the centre? Because after all, I'm sure you would want to project your party as a national party and not one that only wields influence in two important states. Don't you think that by joining a government at the centre, you would do that?
I said that is why it depends on the circumstance. In '96, we had a government which was totally dependent on the Congress. And you saw the fate of that government. 2 prime ministers had to go because the Congress party destabilized the government. So we would like to see what sort of arrangement, what sort of alignment of forces are there, so that getting into government is easy, but running that government and seeing that this government delivers is important. So we'll look into all that.
Mr. Jyoti Basu, of course, once had the chance to be the first communist Prime Minister of India, and then he famously went on to say that that was a historic blunder. In retrospect, do you agree with him?
No, in our party we discussed the matter after the '96 decision, and in '98 our party Congress weighed all the factors and came to the conclusion that we took a correct decision not to join the government at that time. But at the same time, we took a decision that in future, this is not a permanent closed chapter in the sense of joining the government. It's not a principle which we stick to. It's a question of the circumstances and the correlation of forces at that time, and we will take a decision.
So it wasn't a historic blunder?
Well, it was not a blunder, but we learned from that experience, and we also discussed in 2004, and our party was near unanimous that we cannot join a Congress-led government.
You were, of course, one of the most vocal opponents of Mr. Basu becoming Prime Minister at that time, or you were known to be.
That is the perception in the media, but in our party, the Politburo and the Central Committee takes decisions, so everybody's views are heard.
But why were you opposed to it at that time? What did you
my
feel?
Party Central Committee and my Politburo, I felt that we had not got the necessary strength inside and outside Parliament to shape policy and direct policy.